We pick up in the second part of Psalm 35. We started last week with this tremendous psalm that is candid, that's honest, that's real. And as I mentioned, I don't think we could classify this psalm as being a Christian writing. It is certainly a religious writing written during its era of pre-Christ and a system of law, of believing in divine retribution now. Belief in judgment, but also that candid understanding culturally and religiously of one receiving their good or their ill in this life. And so that if one was good, one could expect good in this life. If one was evil, there was an expectation that the fruit of one's evil lifestyle would also be experienced in this life. The other thing that we saw in Psalm 35 is that it is a psalm not of hopelessness, but a psalm of hope, where the writer's hope is not in the immediacy of his personal circumstances, nor with the limits of his personal power, prestige, or relationships, but his hope is in God's direct intervention into his current situation of life as he's experiencing it at that particular moment. Now, again, this is not the totality of his life, but an experience that he's having in his life now at this particular moment. The other thing that we sought to nail down last week was a quote from Marcus Aurelius in his book of Meditations, where he talked about expectations of good from good persons, and then it was utter madness to expect a evil person to do good. He said it was both irrational and tyrannical to expect an evil person to do good, because an evil person only can do what an evil, ungodly, wicked sinner will do. And that is wickedness. Those are sinful acts and ungodly acts. Maybe the third or fourth thing that we said last week is that to do that, a person or a group of persons will personalize a group or another person as those people or them. Are you listening? That we take a category and we say those people, and rather than treating them as human beings, we treat them as a corporate entity of non-beings who don't deserve, and I don't have to have any remorse or don't have any remorse for how I treat them because of the way they are. Okay? I think those things I must bring forward in the second part of Psalm 35, as we continue to look at it, this psalm, as it was set up in verses 1 through 3, where the first words, "Contend, O Lord," that there is this an appeal to God, for God to involve himself in the matters that the psalmist is going through. One of the issues as we start the remainder of this psalm today starts with, it doesn't seem that God is doing what is expected by God for people of God. Did you catch me? There seems to be a lack of fulfillment of divine expectation for a person of God who use the word righteous in terms of himself. It doesn't seem like a righteous person ought to be going through what a righteous person is going through if God is fulfilling his covenant relationship of righteousness. Are you still with me that far? The writer of this psalm seems to be saying that, hey, Lord, I want you to do what you're supposed to do for me and for righteous people as we're going through what we're going through. pick up in the 7th verse, and let me just read a couple of verses, and then we will come back and I'll do some selected verses to try to heighten this. We did verses 1 through 6 last week, so you can go back and do that. But look at the feeling of these verses, verses 7 and following. This is what the writer of psalmist is experiencing. For without cause, they hide their net from me. Without cause, they dig a pit for my life. Now notice the wording. Let ruin come on them unaware. And let the net that they hid ensnared, that they hid ensnare them. Let them fall in it to their ruin. Verse 9. Then my soul will rejoice in the Lord, exalting his deliverance. All my bones shall say, O Lord, who is like you? You deliver the weak from those too strong for them, the weak and the needy from those who despoil them. Notice the switch now. You've got that. Now notice the switch in verse 11. Malicious witnesses rise up. They ask me about things I do not know. They repay me evil for good. My soul is forlorn. You see how you've got to switch, as you look at this, Lord, I want to thank you, but then, Lord, malicious. Is that the word that it uses? Malicious witnesses. What is a malicious witness? A malicious witness is an ungodly, wicked, evil sinner that'll say anything for their own good. With harm intended. Malicious with harm intended. Malicious with deliberate deception intended. Malicious with the only concern being me and no one else. Malicious with a destructive attitude and agenda. Great God. You mean to tell me, Pastor Jones, that there are people like that in the world? Yes! Take off the rose-colored glasses, babe. When you've been relegated as to those people and one of them. Can I be specific about that? If you notice, they will use some of the marches and they only zero in on the looting and the breaking of the windows and showing persons running out of stores with items and says them. You know what the intent is? To associate all people of color with looters and thieves. That's no accident. So when they look at you and see you with those bags, just like those others who've been stealing. With children, they relegate you, your adult professional self, as to just another child that'll steal. It's no accident that they do. That's malicious. And that's what this psalmist is saying. Look at it again. Malicious witnesses rise up. What does it mean to rise up? To turn against. Have you noticed here lately how some people have risen up now and showing overt signs of racism that didn't do it 5 years ago? You realize now that there's a sentiment that's seeking to divide and cause one group to rise up against another group? Us against them? It's no accident. accident, y'all, that some of this stuff is going on. It's biblical. And as much as we disdain it and don't like it, it's real. Malicious witnesses, don't run by that. They ask me about things I do not know. They make statements. They repay me evil, great God from Zion, for good. My soul is forlorn, Lord. I don't know what to do. What do you do when you do good and you get evil in return? What do you do? You regret that you did the good, don't you? You see, the next time I do something like that, and you'll say that. Reverend Jones, where were you pulling this from? Roll over to verse 13. Feel now. Remember, just take the last words. Malicious people have risen up against me. I'm getting evil for good. But as for me, when they were sick, I wore sackcloth. I afflicted myself with fasting. I prayed with head bowed on my bosom, as though I grieved for a friend or a brother. I went about as one who lamented for a mother, bowed down and in mourning. I treated them as if their mama had died. I treated them as if my own mama had died. Talk to me, please. You see where he is? And then what he's going through? And the dilemma that's within his own spiritual being? You see it? They're malicious. And yes, they were malicious. I know they were malicious. They are malicious. But when they were down with their malicious self, I helped them. I prayed for them. I grieved with them. In fact, I went on a fast. I didn't eat. And I went on a water fast. And then I did without a water fast. I suffered in appealing to you for them. Lord, I was feeling for them as if my mama had died. And then they treat me like this. Come on, y'all. It's right there. That hurts. Now, you can say all you want that I'll be all right. It don't hurt that bad. You're lying. It hurts. And it hurts real, real bad. And it can leave a bad taste in your mouth and a scar on your spirit that you can become cold and hardened and turn your back on the world and question God's integrity. Are you listening? And that's the intent of malicious folk, to cause you to become hardened, indifferent. Can I talk plain? And to say, my vote don't count. That's what they want. For you to feel like that. To turn on one another. To turn against the church and to turn against God and Christ and grace and love and compassion. That's what they want. They want you to think this is a dog-eat-dog world. And therefore want you to act like a dog. But you can't condescend to that. This is an honest, tough chapter. Notice again, I want us to look at some verses. Just glance quickly at what this psalmist asks for the trouble that he's receiving. What is his ask? Verse 4 following. Lord, those malicious folk, let them be put to shame and dishonor, who seek after my life. Let them be turned back and confounded. 5, let them be like chaff before the wind. 6, let their way be dark and slippery. It ain't right, Lord. And they shouldn't be able just to skate through here without at least catching some of the mess that they perpetuated on me. Verse 19. Stay with it. Verse 19. Do not let my treacherous enemies rejoice over me. Of those who hate me without cause and wink their eye. Why are you surprised at that? That's what wicked, malicious people do. They don't need a reason just because of the way you look or because you're one of them or those people. Can't stand them. I don't know, you don't know me, but you look like that symbol of disdain. Verse 25. Do not let them say to themselves, we have our heart's desire. We won. Don't matter how we won, buddy. But we're in here and we made it. Doesn't matter about the carnage that you've left behind. Well, they'll get over it. But we did just what we wanted to do. Are you listening? Verse 26. Let all those who rejoice at my calamities be put to shame and confusion. Let all of those, wait a minute, maybe did I read that right? Let all of those who rejoice at my calamity? People rejoice when other people are in situations of destruction. People rejoice when a large population of inner city children are not receiving adequate nourishment because they're not getting the breakfast and the lunch and the hot meals at school. People rejoicing because a large number of children will be left behind because they don't have Wi-Fi hookup and their parents can't afford the iPad, the iPhone, or the computer, or the laptop. People rejoice because there's an elderly population after they pay their bills with their Social Security check, don't have enough to buy food, let alone organic. And you wonder why their health is in shambles? They're just trying to eat. You mean people rejoice over that and can cut funds with no compassion? Yes, they can, because it's those people. It's them. I cut benefits for them, but yet I'll buy $1 million airplane to fly around solo for myself. How do you do that and call yourself a servant of the people? How do you do that? And you call yourself a Christian or a godly person with the Bible in your hand and racism in your heart. How do you do that? That's the dilemma that this 35th Psalm is raising. That's where this righteous person is. He's saying, God, this is not adding up. And I can't change the system. I'm going to vote. I'm going to do the census. But I can't change the evil in the system. I need you, Lord. And that's the challenge for the Christian church. Grappling and exposing the evil in the system and not allowing nice, wicked people to sit in the pew comfortably and feel that it's okay. This psalmist, to say the least, is troubled. Are you listening? He's battling with the venom that he doesn't deserve. And he's asking God. You see the venom in this? You know what I mean by venom? Venom is the poison that's there. Look at verses 15 and 16. But at my stumbling, they gathered in glee. They gathered together against me. Ruffians whom I did not know tore at me without ceasing. Verse 16. They impiously mocked more and more, gnashing at me with their teeth. These are other human beings. They impiously mocked. Malicious people mock other people. You know what it means to be mocked? To be belittled, to be made light of, to be defined and created in a caricature. I hope that's a good word. Of something other than a human being. They don't want to work. They're just stealing our jobs. They have had long enough to do this. It's not my fault. Mocked. Hey, I don't, having no feelings for. Great God. There are human beings in America that have no feelings for other human beings in America. Both blue, black, and white. I don't care about nobody but themselves and people of like mindset. That's what I mean by venom. Venom is a poison. It's a cultural poison where people in our culture and society are walking around with poisoned minds, poisoned attitudes, and consequently poisoned speech and poisoned actions. Just can't push this back here to the history of the Bible where it's real now. So wake up. And this psalmist is writing not as one who is hopeless, but this psalmist is writing as one who is victimized. The psalmist is one that's writing who is sick, not so much physically, but emotionally sick, emotionally drained, spiritually devastated, and wondering, come on, God, where are you? Where are you? Verses 17 and 18. How you doing with this? Y'all doing all right? Work with it. It may be tough, but work with it. There's healing and help here. Verses 17 and 18. Okay, this is where I am. So how does he grapple with where he is? A simple question. How long, O Lord, will you look on? He's saying, Lord, I know you're aware of this. Am I talking loud enough for you? Because sometimes, let me come back up. He says, Lord, I know that you are aware of this. For you are sovereign, oh my. You are God. And there's nothing that happens on earth that you're not aware of. So my question to you, O Lord, how long will you look on? Request, rescue me from their ravishes. My life from the lions. Lord, my destruction is what's the word that I'm looking for? My destruction is sure. My destruction is inevitable. There's my word. And I need you to intervene. You're my hope. Verse 18. Then I will thank you in the great congregation, in the mighty honor, in thy mighty throne, I will praise you. There's a social bargaining. There's a spiritual. Lord, don't just do it so that I can get up. But I need you to do this so that in this same context, around these same folk who are ravishing these lions, this malicious crowd, that fix it for me, and I'm going to stand up in the midst of them, and I'm going to praise your name. There's the key. When you're down, don't wallow and cry in their presence. But you just ask the Lord to bless you when you get up. Just in that same crowd, start praising and thanking God for his goodness. If you do this, I will keep my promise. Look, verses 27 and 28. And if I had it, I'd take a part 3 of this. but I'm gonna look at verses 27 and 28. But they're beautiful closure to all. And remember, bring everything from verses 1 through 26 to verses 27 and 28. Bring everything. The malicious crowd, the vicious crowd, the liars, the persons who are bordering madness and sickness and mental disease. Bring all of them. Listen to what he says. Let those who desire my vindication shout for you and be glad and say evermore, God is the Lord. Great is the Lord, who delighteth in the welfare of his servant. Then my tongue shall tell of your righteousness and of your praise all day long. Whew. Lord, it's been rough. No, Lord, it is rough. But as rough as it is, you're my hope. Lord, I'm just being brutally honest with you because this is your world and you know that wickedness, ungodly, dehumanizing people are in it. But if I've got to live with them, just help me out so that I can praise you and give you thanks and be a witness in the midst of it all. Heavenly Father, thank you so much for this psalmist. I don't know him, never met him, but I certainly can identify with all that he's feeling. Help us to live in such a way that our requests are not selfish, but that our requests are based upon our desire to praise you. For we ask it in Jesus' name. Amen.